All right. This is a special day. This is the annual Zimmermann Symposium. Sharon reminds me it's the 25th year that we're having the Zimmermann Symposium, so I thought it'd be worthwhile to recall who Bernard Zimmermann is. I know that people of a certain age bracket, which includes mine, unfortunately I wasn't here, remember Dr. Zimmermann with great fondness, but some of us of more recent vintage may not know who Dr. Zimmermann was. Born in St. Paul, he was the son of a surgeon, went to Harvard College, Harvard Medical School, and did his residency under the legendary Owen Wagenstein at the University of Minnesota. He was gifted as a researcher. At age 25, he described a technique for prolonged catheterization for intravenous infusion. Can you imagine that at age 25? Single-authored paper in Science. And those of you who know the literature know that that's a singular accomplishment. Academic surgery was in his blood. He was in the University of Minnesota as a junior and associate professor. He studied all sorts of metabolic and endocrine derangements that are associated with injury and surgery, and also branched out into various clinical areas as well, such as iatrogenic bile duct injuries. He was famous at West Virginia University as being one of the wave from Minnesota, the people from Minnesota who populated the academic clinical departments at the conversion of the 2-year to 4-year medical school. And he continued an active laboratory investigation. He has 101 publications, nice round number, in his CV, and 45 of them dated from his time in West Virginia. Some sampling of the very wide-ranging and prolific interests that he had. Nutrition and body fluids, shock and burns at SGNO. That's the predecessor, by the way, to Journal of the American College of Surgeons. Early mechanisms of hemostasis after hemorrhage, and a book about the postoperative management of fluid volumes and electrolytes. That, in terms of surgical endocrinology that surround injury and trauma, was the field for which he was known. He was an innovator. He was on the founding editorial board for the Journal of Surgical Research, and he was a founding member of one of our main bodies for surgical professional organizations, the Society for the Surgery of the Alimentary Tract. He was president of the Halsted Society. So he was prominent. He had a tragically short life, and he was missed. Avocations: fly fishing, hunting, hiking. He bred Angus cattle, of all things. He was a country farmer who loved to visit his neighbors on horseback. And his wife, Elizabeth, who is still very mentally active, and sons Bernard III and Andrew, gave us a lot of the biographical information that we have today. Those of you who are familiar with the surgical suites knows that there are a number of Bernard Zimmermann's portraits in the department. The left is the one that hangs in the conference room of Dr. Zimmermann, who he was close to the end of his career and end of his life. This is the one that you're familiar with in the conference room. The one on the right, though, is in the hallway between the main administrative suite and the suite of offices on the 7th floor. That's his father. That's Harry Bernard Zimmermann. And he has an interesting life as well. He was a lifelong resident of St. Paul. He was a general surgeon. He had an academic life as well, so that explains in part some of the legacy that his son enjoyed. He was president of the Western Surgical Association, and he was an early believer in certification surgery. And if you take a close look at this, you see it's a board certification of the same kind of pattern that most of us have hanging on our walls. But if you take a look, it is the member of the founders group right in the middle. He was the founding group that had the original certification by the American Board of Surgery. And you see some of the signatures, and the one on the left is Evarts Graham, someone who everyone knows is the legendary professor and chair of the Department of Surgery at the Washington University School of Medicine, St. Louis, and Alan O. Whipple of the Whipple procedure fame, who was the chair of the Department of Surgery at Columbia Physicians and Surgeons. And if you take a real close look at the very bottom, you see that he has certificate number 29. So this is part of the legacy that we enjoy. It comes from a time when you really didn't need to have board certification to practice surgery and have a successful surgical practice, because at the time that Harry Zimmermann, the father, got this, he was quite successful in St. Louis, and he didn't need to have this, but he felt it was important, obviously, because he got in. And the other thing was that there was a time when you didn't even have to have surgical training to be a surgeon. And so he got top-notch surgical training, he got top-notch certification, and this is the kind of legacy that we in West Virginia enjoy today. What's more, though, is something else that he has, and that's this article about more human attitudes in surgical practice. This is by the father, Harry B. Zimmermann Sr., and this is something that he wrote on the humanism very early on. They didn't quite call it humanism. If you take a close read at it, you recognize that that's an archaic kind of, some of the things is dated, but the spirit is there, and I think the spirit lives on in his son and what the son brought to the Department of Surgery at West Virginia University. It's part of that legacy that we enjoy today. So it's important that we have both portraits up in our surgical suite. This is important because you remember how old Dr. Zimmermann looked in the portrait that he has in the surgical conference room, but this is what most people who work with him actually remember, and this was pointed out to me by Sharon Bartholomew. And so it's important that we recognize him, that this is the signal event of our academic year at the West Virginia University Department of Surgery.